Good morning, and this morning on 5 News, law enforcement warns more kids are being targeted online in Arkansas. Coming up, how they're calling for immediate action to protect them and what parents can do to get involved.
And today, not too bad outside. Yes, we're going to be dealing with some cloud coverage hanging around throughout most of the day, but afternoon highs, not too bad. Now, those rain chances pick up this evening and then through your weekend forecast. We'll talk about it coming up.
Plus, reading scores reveal a crisis in Arkansas schools with many third graders facing retention. What families need to know.
And Super Regional Softball returns today at Bogle Park. The games have been moved up, and our sports team will have everything you need to know about the chance to go to the World Series. But first, a live look outside in Springdale. Good morning to you all out there as the sun continues to rise. Your 5 News this morning starts right now.
Covering news where you live. This is 5 News This Morning.
And good morning, and thank you for joining us on 5 News this morning. Happy Friday. Happy start to the Memorial Day weekend. I know a lot of people are going to be out on the roads traveling this weekend, so it's a big weekend for a lot of people.
It is. Are you raising your hand over there because you got some input of about to destroy our plans?
No.
You traveling?
Well, yes, I was going to start traveling.
Oh, where are you going?
I'm going home.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the weather this morning, and then I'm
Then
out
you're
of
out.
here. I'm
I
out
love
of here
it.
going
I
to
love
enjoy
it.
the weekend.
We're going to
Memorial
grab
Day
that
weekend.
umbrella, right?
We're going to grab the umbrella. It's going to be a rainy, stormy weekend at that. Current temperatures out there this morning into those upper 50s and low 60s for most of us out there. Those mid 60s across the river valley. Not too bad out there this morning. Some cloud coverage hanging around though, and that cloud coverage is really going to hang around throughout most of the day today. If anything, those rain chances start to increase by the time we get to this evening, but really overnight going into Saturday is going to be the best chance that we have for those additional showers. Here's a look at a little bit later on this morning. Sure, there is a low chance for a few spotty showers here and there, but most of the day today, let's call it partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies. Still see some sunshine mixing in there, but your weekend forecast a little bit different. We're talking about Saturday and Sunday. Starting off as soon as Saturday morning, let's say 7, 8 a.m. in the morning, scattered showers and thunderstorms expected across northwest Arkansas and the river valley. Now, that trend is going to continue through your Sunday as well. Temperature range right around those mid to upper 70s, low 80s across the river valley over the weekend. While there is going to be breaks without the thunderstorms, without the rain, for most of us, it's going to be a rainy, stormy weekend for us. And we could even have a few severe storms here and there. Not only do we have that threat overnight tonight, but our Saturday and going into our Sunday as well, all has that outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. So with all these rain chances, all these thunderstorm chances added up through the weekend and into your Memorial Day on Monday, we are going to have a flooding concern over the weekend. 4 to 7 inches of rainfall expected to be picked up across parts of northwest Arkansas. South of I-40, a little bit less, but still that flooding concern, especially in those areas of low-lying elevation there where that water's going to collect. That could lead to some flooding concerns over your Memorial Day weekend. Of course, by the time we get past Monday, that forecast gets a little bit better. Let's take a look at some traffic out there this morning. Here is a live look there at the Bella Vista interchange. Good morning to you there this morning. Quiet out there right now, but no accidents, no slowdowns across northwest Arkansas or in the river valley. That drive into work looks great.
All right, thanks for that, Stephen. Well, developing this morning, a shocking trend emerges in our state. Arkansas is on track to double the number of child sextortion cases this year.
Yeah, and law enforcement is sounding the alarm, urging parents to be vigilant. Sextortion typically involves an explicit picture getting into the wrong hands. That person then asks the sender to pay them, or the photo gets posted online.
Last year, the state police saying they had 169 reports of this for the whole year. This year, before we hit June, we're at 146. But now the crimes are changing and criminals evolving.
We're also seeing there are these groups that are coming on, and they're not actually asking for money from these kids. They're wanting to get more and more pictures from them so they can disseminate them out, and some of them sell them on the dark web and other different forums to people.
State police also say the numbers tend to tick up in the summer when kids are out of school with more time on their hands. Well, after 19 years on the run, a man who walked away from the Hamilton Correctional Center in LaFleur County, Oklahoma, is now back behind bars. The Oklahoma Department of Corrections says that Stephen Capps walked away from this facility back in 2006. He ended up in Ohio, where he was arrested again for breaking and entering. But police in Ohio never told the Oklahoma DOC about the arrest. After he got out of jail there in 2021, marshals were able to track him down in Muskogee, where he was arrested this month. The DOC says that Capps has a little more than 3 years left to serve on that original sentence.
A candidate for the Choctaw Nation Tribal Council died Thursday following a crash that happened on Wednesday night.
Adrian Jonico, running for District 7, was struck on 271 and pronounced dead at Choctaw Nation Healthcare. Now, Jonico was hit Wednesday around 9:50 p.m. This was near 400th Avenue, about 4 miles south of Tallahena. The Highway Patrol saying a 76-year-old driver was involved and suffered only minor injuries.
The crash remains under investigation. Jonico launched his campaign last month, emphasizing servant leadership and commitment to his community. And in Franklin County, community members gathered Thursday just steps from the site of a proposed 3,000-bed state prison, hosting a film screening and panel to speak out against the billion-dollar project. The event, led by Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition, Gravel and Grit, and the MacArthur Justice Center, featured the short film Calls from Home, which explores the emotional toll of incarceration on rural communities. Organizers say the prison construction often hurts more than it helps rural economies, pulling workers away from small businesses and depressing nearby property values. Sarah Moore, executive director of AJRC, says what's emerging from the partnership isn't just resistance, it's unity.
The silver linings out of this is that we've really connected more Arkansans together that are from rural areas and from more urban areas, and who might think that they're quite different. We have so much more commonality than we thought to begin with.
The panel discussion focused on parole reform and investing in local communities as a more effective alternative to incarceration.
Well, today's a big day for Razorbacks softball as they host Ole Miss in the Super Regional at Bogle Park.
Yeah, the game's been moved up to 11 this morning. Ole Miss won the series back in March, so the Hogs want to even the score. Our sports director, Alex Stewart, has more on this chance at a World Series.
5 News coverage of the Razorbacks is sponsored by Arvest Bank.
The day is here. Super Regional Softball is on the hill as Arkansas hosts Ole Miss. And if you remember from yesterday, that game is now at 11 a.m. So you've got a few precious hours left to get those tickets and get out to Bogle. But hold up, don't call it quits just yet after that one ends. A few hours after that, we get our second shot of Hottie Toddy and Hogs as the baseball team takes on the Rebels in the SEC tournament in a battle of two of the top offenses in the conference. This get-together will be the fourth meet between these two this season, with Arkansas taking 2 of the first 3 down at the Grove. However, these two have more history than a textbook, with this being their 119th meeting. So really, throw it all out the window. This one could go either way.
We know Ole Miss. I mean, they're one of our common opponents. So, I mean, we know all their players. We recruit against them all the time. They're, we just seem to be on a lot of the same kids. So a lot of familiarity, I guess, so to speak. And, I'm sure they feel the same way about us. They really know what we're all about.
Well, if familiarity breeds contempt, contempt tends to create fun games, so I am all for it. It's Arkansas and Ole Miss in the SEC Tournament quarterfinals today at 3. And don't forget, before that, history is on the line over on the softball diamond between Arkansas and Ole Miss. Someone going to their first College World Series with 2 wins. That journey starts bright and early here, just a few hours at 11 a.m. That's going to be it for your sports right now, though. Have a great day.
A new report reveals nearly 70% of Arkansas third graders are not at reading grade level. With retention now on the table under the LEARNS Act, educators say it's time to act both in the classroom and at home. 2023 state testing shows just 32% of Arkansas third graders met reading benchmarks. Under the LEARNS Act, students who don't meet those standards face possible retention. That policy now puts thousands of students at risk of repeating third grade as schools work to close the learning gaps.
It is essential that those kids are reading on grade level by third grade, because up into second grade, you are learning to read. But once you hit third and above, you are reading to learn.
Gilmer says identifying reading gaps early is key, and that more targeted assessments and intervention plans can help struggling students before they'll fall too far behind.
Meanwhile, school lunch prices could be rising for some Fayetteville students next year. The district says a 25-cent hike would cover rising costs, but not every family will be affected. The district plans to raise those prices for breakfast and lunch for full-pay students, staff, and guests. The increase follows USDA pricing guidelines and will help the district align with national standards. Additional revenue will support rising food and supply costs, along with staff wages. Free and reduced price meals will stay the same, though students won't see any changes.
The Supreme Court is striking down a publicly funded Catholic charter school in Oklahoma. It effectively invalidates a vote by a state charter school board to approve the St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Virtual School. It would have been the nation's first religions charter school. The Catholic Church in Oklahoma had wanted taxpayers to fund the online charter school, but opponents warned that allowing it would blur the separation between church and state.
In our continuing coverage this morning, authorities are considering the death penalty for the suspect who's accused of murdering 2 young Israeli embassy employees in Washington on Wednesday.
Yeah, outside of the White House, mourners gathered overnight to honor the victims. Naomi Ruckham has more.
Outside of the White House, mourners gathered to honor 30-year-old Yaron Lashinsky and 26-year-old Sarah Lynn Milgram, 2 Israeli embassy staffers who were shot and killed Wednesday night in Washington. Police say the couple was targeted as they left an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum.
Anything that affects one Jew in the city affects all of us.
A vigil was also held in Kansas, where Milgram grew up.
Sarah was a real people's person. She enjoyed people. There's a void in the world right now because a beautiful smile is no longer with us.
The suspected shooter, Elias Rodriguez from Chicago, was arrested at the museum and is now being held in a D.C. jail. He faces 5 counts, including first-degree murder and murder of foreign officials. Federal agents searched his Chicago apartment yesterday. Interim U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro says he's also being investigated for hate crime.
Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated, especially in the nation's capital.
Israel's ambassador to the U.S. says Lashinsky had just bought an engagement ring and was planning to propose to Milgram during a trip to Jerusalem next week.
We were worried about her going to Israel. The war getting ready to flare up again, but she was killed in D.C.
2 lives tragically cut short by the type of violence they had both worked towards ending. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.